Now, when it comes to Star Wars, everybody has their favorite characters for the most part. A lot of people's favorite characters: Darth Vader, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Luke, Kylo Ren, and they're totally valid, right? Like, if you like, I'm not gonna sit here and judge anyone's favorite character, but personally, for me, I've had like kind of my ranking has kind of changed throughout the years, but I really believe, dude, like my favorite character of all time and the best character is Yoda. Now, Yoda is a character I feel like is so compared to the other characters in Star Wars, like he's definitely not talked about as much, but just the whole like aura that Yoda has, I feel like in Star Wars, it's so like underrated in my opinion. Just because he's not really like he's a famous character, but he's not like as famous as like Anakin. You don't really hear people saying like Yoda's my favorite character, but the reason why Yoda's my favorite character is just because of the way that his character is. You guys have to think about, Yoda was a character. He's lives to 700, 800 years old, right? Like he has a long life. And this guy's seen generations of Jedi. He's trained so many Jedi in the past. And just his whole like arc throughout Star Wars is so well done, And it's kind of crazy because we haven't really seen like the majority of his arc, Like pretty much in episode 1, he's already kind of an old man in that era. So it's like his species lives so long. And that's one of the things also about Yoda is that his whole like species itself, there's pretty much only 3 characters in canon that we basically have seen. I believe it's him, it's Yaddle, and it's Grogu. So, and the fact that we don't really know like where his species comes from, but all we know is that they live a really long time and they're pretty much like force sensitive for the most part. So I feel like just his character, man. And I want to talk about like episode 1, right? Because episode 1, he's on the Jedi Council. He's super wise, and you kind of just see him there sitting there. He has those scenes in episode 1 that are super fun to watch. And whether you like even the older versions of episode 1 where he's a puppet still, it's definitely like wild to see how like he ended up becoming CGI. But Yoda's a character, dude. Like when you see this guy talk, dude, like, and I did so much research about it, for this. I think they had said that like they kind of he was inspired off like Albert Einstein, pretty much his look, and the way that he talks, is basically just like super like interesting, the way that he talks backwards, but like you kind of understand what he's still saying, like he is the perfect example. Like, just because you're a small size doesn't mean you can't do big things, like he is one of the most powerful Jedis in the entire Star Wars lore, dude. Like we haven't really seen Yoda like lose a fight, dude. He basically almost beat Palpatine in episode 3. So keep in mind that this little green dude, bro, is so powerful that like he is fucking one of the best Jedi ever. And it's kind of crazy because we haven't really seen like Yoda's like prime, I guess. I think that's one of the things. I don't know if they're gonna do a trilogy where it's like before episode 1. I think they're planning on that because I know that's basically Yoda's prime, and Yoda's seen so much throughout the galaxy. I think we haven't even unpacked like the potential of like Yoda's arc, dude. For the most part, like we've only seen him for like a couple, like not even that long in Star Wars lore, basically. Pretty much episode 1 through 6, right? And it's just so fascinating to see like how his character evolves, just in the prequels, he's on the council, like I said, but you kind of see how like, especially episode 3, how he kind of talks to Anakin. He kind of knows that like something's going on with him, he's able to sense that like he's dealing with a lot. And whenever he ends up finding the video where he kills the younglings and stuff, you definitely see that Yoda like feels like he's failed, not that was his Padawan or anything, but just you kind of see how like he knows that the Jedi is kind of like being attacked, and pretty much in obviously the whole like Order 66 stuff, just this definitely was a dark age for the Jedi, right? And for Yoda to go into exile after basically kind of like having like a standoff with Palpatine definitely was one of my favorite moments of episode 3, just because the way that he kind of just accepts defeat and he has to kind of go into hiding, it's pretty intense, and I feel like just we see Yoda for the first time in episode 5, he kind of seemed like this old hermit, kind of like a weird alien, but you kind of start to realize that this guy's seen the galaxy. That's one of the reasons I love about the prequels, is that it gives context to like the original trilogy way more. It makes sense how like Obi-Wan and Yoda seem to have a close relationship, and kind of how he knows a lot about Anakin. It's just it was so well done, dude. Like Yoda is one of the best characters in this entire Star Wars universe, bro, and I feel like he doesn't get talked about enough. Obviously, we know the dude, you're not, there's no trying. Just all his quotes are super like inspiring, dude. Like honestly, dude, this might sound corny, but like Yoda's like one of the biggest like motivational speakers ever, dude. The way that this guy talks, dude, is so wise. He kind of listens to what he says. It's like instead of like focusing on the now, you're always looking towards the future. It's definitely philosophies of Yoda that you can apply to real day life. I think that is fascinating about this character, is that was written so well done. Frank Oz as well, for portraying him, doing the voice and the puppetry and all that. you guys gotta remember, you know, back in the 80s, dude didn't have CGI, so just for him to be like an actual puppet, I love the way that he looks in the original trilogy, dude. I feel like the CGI Yoda, you know, it just doesn't hit the same. It's still cool, but when you see puppet Yoda, dude, like he just looks like he looks way more real first off, and just it's more believable, you know. It doesn't look like a CGI like just alien, you know. He looks like a real like creature, like a character, right? And that's what I love about episode 5 is that it was so well done. Just the whole like setting in Dagobah, how he's talking to Luke and training him, like that was one of the best parts. Definitely when I watch episode 5, that's the part that I always like love watching again, just because of how great it's well done and all that. But you know, you kind of learn as in episode 6 where he dies, dude. That was such a powerful scene. You know, seeing him pass away after all those years, he's lived such a long life, and just seeing kind of how he tells Luke that he kind of has to defeat Vader for him to be a Jedi, you know. It sets Luke off on this journey in episode 6 to finally, you know, bring peace to the galaxy. You know, Yoda is one of those characters, dude, that, like I say, he's so underrated. I feel like a lot of people don't like give him enough credit. Everybody talks about Anakin, and yes, he's definitely the most compelling character in Star Wars, but Yoda, man, I love Yoda so much, dude. And whether it's Lego Yoda or it's animated Yoda or it's live action Yoda, CGI Yoda, like, dude, Yoda is like legit one of my favorite characters. Probably, no, he is my favorite character in Star Wars because he is so well written, and just like the way that, like I said, you know, all the work that went into creating this character, I thought George Lucas and the people behind it did so well. And just, he is one of the most iconic characters ever. And just, yeah, dude, this is a video. I'm just kind of just showing my love for Yoda, bro. You know, Yoda's, like I said, is my favorite character, and I feel like, you know, I want to talk about his theme also. His theme, bro, Yoda's theme is one of the best themes in Star Wars. It's the type of shit that like I would like lay down in bed at night and just think about my life. You put this song on, you just look up in the ceiling, like you start meditating like a Jedi and shit, bro. Like, Yoda is hands down one of the most underappreciated characters in Star Wars. I feel like people don't talk about him enough, and you know, I feel like for the most part, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing like, and I know in the Acolyte they showed him right at the end, you know, and definitely was intriguing at first. I know the Acolyte kind of failed and all that, but I want to see Yoda back in the Acolyte era, you know, just before episode 1, right? I want to see like what he was like, you know. And there's a lot of stories to tell about him, you know. He lived a long life, you know, so I think for the most part, it's something to definitely that we could look into as, you know, how could we like see like this different side of Yoda, you know, in these other new movies. But other than that, guys, you know, this is basically just a video about my love for Yoda, you know, why I love him so much, and just, you know, like I said, you know, I love Star Wars a lot, so it wasn't really like a breakdown or anything. This is me just showing my love, man, for one of the greatest characters ever, you know. There's no script for this or anything. This is just how I feel, you know. So other than that, you know, thank you guys for watching, you know, check out new videos every week, and yeah, peace.